Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Couples Academy show. As you know, it is Friday, and it means that it is Ask the Experts. And today I have our brother, our co practitioner, Roland Bradley, with us. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
I'm doing phenomenal today. Today is the day. We have a last chance week, and you may see it in the background here. Sorry for the glaring lights. There's a lot going on. But we are, it's the calm before the storm. We're just about an hour and a half away before we start this weekend's transformational experience. So we're always asking for prayers because prayer changes things. The prayers of a righteous man and woman availeth much. So we need it because there needs to be transformation in the building. Listen, guys, before we get started, we want to make sure that you share this with your community. So like, share, and subscribe. Let the people know that we're here. And post your questions. It's all about questions. Whatever your relational status is, whether you're single, dating, in a committed courtship, engaged, married, separated, divorced, whatever your situation is, please post it so that we can give you what you need. But before we go, I have to listen. We got a testimonial from another couple. It says a special thanks to Roland and Janella Bradley for getting us back on track. A perfect marriage doesn't exist, but you best believe that a marriage built on these principles can make it happen. And that's from Curtis and Carlene from Florida. What an amazing job you've done with them. Isn't it something special when, like, you know what? The outcome is what our true desire is. And when you see transformation take place in the lives of a couple, what does that do for you?
Man, it just blows me away. I got chills. I wasn't expecting to see that. So I remember Colleen and Curtis, and they are a phenomenal couple. I'm glad to have worked with them and stay connected with them. And to see them come in one way and see them today as absolutely refreshing, motivating, and inspiring. And so I love what I do. I love being able to help people do what they do. And it's just been a blessing and an honor and also a humbling privilege to be in this spot. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. Listen, guys, we're about to go to your questions. Make sure you post them now. But before we do that, we're going to take a quick commercial, share with you about this Foundations program that we have unleashed, that we have launched, that we want you to take advantage of. And we'll get to your questions in just a second.
We're really excited about Foundation. It is a new group program where couples are gathering from all around the world twice a week, couples who just want to have a thriving, successful, amazing marriage. No really well-built house is built without a foundation. As a matter of fact, without a foundation, it can't stand. It would just crumble right into the ground. We are going to interview experts and other successful couples so that you can get a glimpse into the lives of other people who are doing what it is that you desire to do, who have and who are accomplishing what it is that you want to accomplish. And we also have over 500 videos available for you to watch of all of our teaching. Everything that we've ever done, every topic that we've ever covered will be accessible to you.
So guys, if this sounds exciting to you and if this sounds like something you've been waiting for, go ahead and just give it a try. We're literally giving away a 15-day trial for $1. And then after that, it's simply $3 a day. And so, is your marriage worth it? Is your future worth it? Join the community today. Just click that button and meet us on the other side.
That's right. That's Foundations. I want you to think about Patreon. Patreon is like that behind the scenes experience that you get from people that you follow, say on YouTube. And it's like an insider membership for those who are committed to gaining information in a particular area. And that's what Foundations is for us. We meet twice a week on Mondays and Wednesdays for about an hour and go deep dive into some incredible teachings. I mean, we really only have an opportunity to scratch the surface on this daily show, but we go in deep, and it's really making a difference in the lives of people, getting them back on track. So we encourage you to do it. It's just $1 to check it out. But we do have a couple questions we're going to get to. And really, I'm going to read these back to back because these particular questions are in the same vein. So number one from Pot Pet, good morning, says, good morning from Melbourne. What are some uncommon, unusual ways to help rebuild trust, like activities, etc.? I'm going to circle back around to that, but I'm going to go to this next question. This is from Troy. Hello, my wife and I have been separated for a year. She has been dating another person and recently confided to me that she's ended things with him. Should I trust that? We are back dating and trying. So they kind of fit in the same realm. I'll start by answering him and then go back into Pipette, and then you go away and Roland as well. First of all, the fact that she was open and honest and transparent about what she was doing and no longer doing, I think is a step in the right direction. Should you trust it? Well, you ever heard of the term getting receipts or getting verifications for what someone says and does? I think that if we're going to begin to rebuild trust, it's got to happen with more than just someone verbally articulating what is and what isn't. There's got to be some demonstration, right? We talk about creating systems of accountability. And in that process, depending upon the state of your relationship and where you are, you need to begin to live a transparent life. So we talk about this thing called radical honesty, and there's several components of it. And one of the components is historical as well as current honesty. So if she's been in this relationship for a year, has she been open about it? Has she been tight-lipped about it? Does she not want to talk about it? Is she free to express what happened? Like, your ability to rebuild trust with her is her ability to be open and honest about her history, about her past, but also being transparent about her daily activities. If that relationship is over and now it's you and I, is she compartmentalizing aspects of her life from you? Is she an open book? Like, those are the things that need to be done to begin to restore trust back into a relationship. What say you, Roland?
And the other thing, I was reading it, and I know you said that she ended it, and we want to know, why was it ended? Was it ended because she was ready to come back home and fix things with the marriage, or was it ended because of some other reasons that she had to end it? We want to get the transparency of the relationship as it was, and we want to make sure that we understand why things happened the way that they did. I commend her for being honest and transparent and letting you know that she's ended it and she wants to come back home. Just trust the process. And trusting the process is her being transparent and also being intentional on her behavior moving forward. And so we have to understand that when we put ourselves in a position as you were in, and we want to reconcile where we were, we have to do things in a different way, and we definitely have to be intentional about it.
So your mic, I need you to unmute your mic, but turn your volume down. We're kind of in the same building, so we don't want any echo. So just unmute, because I don't think they can hear you as well as they can hear me. But I appreciate, just turn your volume down, though. I think that'll help. Okay.
Okay.
So going back to the first question, Papette, what are some uncommon, unusual ways? Well, let's start with the common and the usual, like the low-hanging fruit, the things that ultimately make sense. Number one, you've got to increase your ability to effectively communicate. Like, trust is built through talking things out. The more we talk things out, the more trust can be restored, because it allows me to see into your heart. It allows me to get into your mind. This is what we call intimacy, right? Intimacy is a level of closeness. It's a level of living life from the inside out with your partner. There's a term that says isolation breeds ignorance. So when people are living isolated, separate lives, compartmentalized lives, living in their own silo, the more we're physically and emotionally and spiritually separate, it leaves questions. It leaves questions of suspicion, curiosity, and then doubt begins to creep in. But the closer we are and the more open we are, that's how we begin to demonstrate trust. But then also it's our actions. At the end of the day, the system of accountability says, all right, we're going to create this system and place ourselves within it. And we're going to monitor our behaviors over a period of time. And the consistency of one's behavior will prove who a person really is. Either we will trust that a person will continue to do the right thing based upon their behaviors, or we can trust that they will continue to do the wrong thing based upon those behaviors. And so trust is developed over a period of time. It's not by doing something or saying something once, and now the trust should be restored 100%. We say this all the time. Trust is lost in buckets, but it's gained in drops. So hopefully that gives you some level of insight. All right, so there's a lot of questions here. Let's go to Cali Power Couple. Good morning, fam. Working on a balance between sexual intimacy and all other intimacies. 3 years since D-Day, trust issues, triggers. Suggestions to help neither of us feel imbalanced? Any suggestions on how to have balance in all of those areas, not just the sex piece, but the emotional, the spiritual, and the intellectual?
Yeah, so to do that, you just have to measure things out and you have to understand where you all are. So, what happens is a lot of times we focus so much and we dump so much energy in one area and we don't use that same energy in other areas. And when we take out the time to tap into being able to bring about a balance of being okay, so we have the intimacy under control and that same level of energy, we need to bring in the other quadrants and be able to understand the differences between the two. So a lot of times we get so excited because I want to just be with you. I want to be intimate with you physically, but then spiritually we look at it as a drought because it may take a little more work. It may take a little bit more time. But when you do it, and once you do it and get in a routine of doing it, it's not as hard as it would be if when you don't do it. And so balancing things like that, you just have to literally take the same amount of energy that you dump all in one area and spread it out in the other areas.
And to that point, you talk about how you're using your time and finding a sense of balance. There's something called the 4 rituals of connection, right? There's 4 ways where you can connect with your spouse and find a balance of these intimacies. So the first is what we call work, working alongside your partner, then play, having an opportunity to connect and laugh and have a good time. So work, play, then talk, right? Talking things out on a daily basis and connecting as well as your work day. And then pray, right? Pray. So those are different types of intimacies. Obviously, praying is the spiritual intimacy. The play, if you will, that could be more of an emotional or physical intimacy. The talking is the intellectual intimacy, and the working alongside just brings everything together. So finding space for all 4 of those on a daily and weekly basis. What you're doing is you're sowing seeds, and the more seeds you sow, eventually you will produce a harvest of true closeness, intimacy, and oneness in your marriage. All right, here's another question from Anthony. This is a great question. My wife has lost respect for me after discovery and disclosure of our infidelity. What are ways for me to deal with that and to earn her respect back? So, first of all, I've read this 1,000 times and I'll never stop quoting it because I think it should help put you in the right frame of mind of what to expect and anticipate after you've released such information. You have to imagine that this was a blow. It was a shock. So number one, the fact that I discovered it, I feel like what in the world happened to me? Now, once we've gotten to the place where we've unpacked it and now I am fully in the know, hearing certain truths become very difficult to deal with as well. And so during this particular time is probably the most emotional, volatile time that you'll have in your relationship. And so it always brings me back to the book, What Radical Husbands Do. And in the first chapter of the book, the first paragraph of the first chapter in the book, it says, in choosing to stay married, you're choosing a path that's long and hard, longer and harder than anything that you've ever walked. You're going to be kicked in the groin, hopefully metaphorically, ignored, screamed at, rejected, and stonewalled. You're going to feel disrespected and minimized as a man. Your needs are not only going to go unmet, they're going to be ignored at times. There will be more setbacks and advances, and it's not going to feel good most of the time. And if your marriage is at the bottom, put your big boy britches on because it's not going to feel good for a long time. Man, what a sobering message. Now, this does not reflect the totality of your marriage. This reflects the initial season that you're in when discovery and disclosure happens. And so I would encourage you to brace yourself. I would encourage you to take some of those blows. Justifiably, there's a lot of anger, pent-up anger, frustration that your spouse has. And until she learns how to properly filter them out, yeah, it's going to be rough for a while. But there is healing on the other side. There's hope on the other side. There's restoration on the other side. But you've got to be able to weather this storm and get through this difficult season. So right now, you're asking her to respect you when she has no respect for you. Her respect will be restored over time as you demonstrate your own personal growth, transformation, and you show her someone different. And so the question is, why should she be motivated to stay? What is she staying for? Is she signing up for more of the same bad behavior, same bad relational patterns, same bad character issues within you, or is she signing up for something different? And so once you demonstrate that for her, respect will be restored.
Listen, you have to understand, and I say it all the time, if you break your leg today, you don't get up and start walking tomorrow. There's a process, there's a period of time that you have to go through that is called rehab. So you go and there was a blow. Your wife got a blow. The leg was broken. And then we get to this point of understanding how it broke. Why did it break? And the fragilities of that leg. But then we go through this process. It's a healing process, but it's called rehab, where sometimes you're not able to put weight bearing on this particular leg, meaning that it's going to take a little time. Your intentionality is going to have to rise up. Your consistency is going to have to rise up. And then it gets to the point where you can say, well, I can walk with a walker now. I'm making some strides. I'm making some steps. That respect level starts to go up. I'm beginning to trust you again because I see you putting in the effort. And then it gets to the point where I don't need to walk it anymore, but I may be walking with a little limp. But I'll take that because, again, now we're still making progress and the respect level has gone up from one level to another. And then it gets to the point where you're walking again. And I'm walking you through this process simply because it's going to take time. It's going to take a level of consistency, and it's going to take a level of you being intentional on how you show up.
There it
How bad
is.
do you want it?
There it is. You can't beat that. Listen, before we go to this break, I had to post this question. Good morning. My wife has found it in her heart to forgive me for the affair. She keeps telling me that she forgives, but doesn't forget. Help me understand this. Well, listen, we're going to answer that question in full detail on the other side of this break. Stay tuned. You're watching the Couples Academy Show. All right, guys, we're back. You're watching the Couples Academy Show. We're jumping back into these questions. As I said, we're going to pick up on this. Good morning. My wife has found it in her heart to forgive me for the affair. She keeps telling me that she forgives, but doesn't forget. Help me understand this. Well, first of all, where have you read? Where have you learned? Where has it been taught that if one forgives, they should also forget. I haven't found that in a single book. I don't think that that is even realistic or practical. As I've said countless times, the only way that one can forget something that has happened to them in their past is if there's some type of brain damage and their mind cannot access a particular memory. You know, sometimes when people experience trauma, they can't remember certain memories. And even though this is a traumatic experience, sometimes things are imprinted on the brain and the psyche forever. I don't think the goal should be forgetting. And the question is, why would you want her to forget? In fact, oftentimes the unfaithful, the former unfaithful, wants to forget, and he or she should never forget, because we know that, you know, if you forget your history, you're bound to repeat it again. So that dark moment, that experience should be a pivotal point for you, where shift changes. I mean, think about what happened at 9/11. They built the Freedom Tower so that we would never forget, right? We should never forget what's happened to us. It's changed the course of how we do life, of how we do society. So what happens is, once a betrayal has occurred, it should change how you do marriage from that point forward. And there's got to be a point of a reminder of why things are different. And listen, you can't change your past, but you can change the relationship you have to it. So it no longer has to have the sting. So I can forgive you, but listen, if we forget it, then maybe we won't work towards building a healthy foundation to prevent it from happening again. There's got to be a new norm, new patterns, new boundaries. All these things are created because we've chosen to never forget.
And you have to understand that her not forgetting, you're not forgetting, it's a measurable state of being. So now I know how I used to be and what I used to look like. I can have a reminder of it because it's imprinted on my brain. It's in my memory bank. It's not going to go away. But the fact that she has forgiven you, the fact that she has turned over a new leaf to say, I am willing to trust you again, should give you the motivation to bring it to her attention sometimes, of you being a changed man, that you're not the same as you used to be. And so we have to understand that anytime we're making progression, you're moving away from something, that place doesn't move. You have moved away from it. But you can always turn around and look to see how far you have come from, how far you have grown, and that is a measurable stick for you.
Yes.
So hold on to the fact that she didn't forget. If she's not reminding you or throwing it in your face or using it against you, but she has forgiven you, take hold to it and use it as strength and
Yes.
not as a weakness.
And in fact, I would encourage you to be the one to bring it up so that she doesn't have to. Because the reality is, she's thinking about it. Whether she articulates it or not, that thought, what has happened, is in her mind. And she's developing a sense of discipline by not always bringing it up when it comes to her mind. But when you bring it up, it's a reminder to her that, man, he cares, he remembers, maybe he's changed. He's built up this system, this plan, this new identity to prevent it from happening again. And when he brings it up, he brings it up with remorse and concern for me. And he's making a promise, a vow, and a declaration of what will never happen again based upon what has. That's a sign of growth and development. So that's kind of spinning this whole thing on its head about forgiving. Listen, even though the Bible says that when we sin, God throws our sins into the sea of forgetfulness, that is what God does. But listen, God built us in a completely different way. So don't ask her to do what she was never designed or created to do. All right. Here's another question. Can you explain why people who have betrayed their partners have the audacity to think that because you do something a few times, that means trust is restored? So once again, fine, he or she did the right thing, so you should just immediately trust me. Haven't I proven myself? So you've been through 6 months, 8 months, 3 years, 10 years of bad behavior, and 3 incidences of you doing the right thing. All of a sudden, I'm just supposed to forget, I'm supposed to trust, and move on with life. And it doesn't work that way. Listen, if you've been doing the right thing for 20 years and you have a moment of weakness or wickedness, whichever one it is, that 20 years that you've built up this trust is gone just like that. And it will take a considerable amount of time. I'm not saying 20 years, but it will take a considerable amount of time of your consistency to gain that trust back. So yeah, I get your frustration, Tiffany, and you're absolutely right.
Yeah, it is unfortunate because a lot of times we want the pain to just go away, just get over it, just all right already. You see what I'm doing, you see the work that I've put in, and because, like, to your point, he's done something a couple of times and think that the trust should just be restored. We know that that is not factual. We know that that is not even healthy to think that because I've done something a couple of times that I want you to trust me again. But what happens is when we get to a place of considering ourselves first, meaning that if I was in your shoes, meaning that if we show a level of empathy to one another, that attitude of feeling like because I've done something 3 times compared to the amount of time that I did things wrong, we would have a different attitude about it. And we have to get to this place of understanding that it is going to take more time, more than just a couple of instances to restore trust.
Absolutely. Listen, here's another question by Hubert. Well, actually, it's a statement. It seems like I'm stuck in not treating my wife the way that she would like. He goes on to say, why do I feel stuck in not doing right? Well, listen, there was a song that was written and performed phenomenally well by Music Soul Child, and it's entitled Teach Me How to Love. And the reality is, oftentimes we're looking outside of the obvious, our spouse, for answers on how to treat our spouse, how to show up right, instead of asking our spouse, becoming a student of our spouse, and learning what it takes to love them. In fact, we were just talking about this in Foundry. There's a brother who his focus was one particular area of restoring the relationship, of which the wife had zero interest. Like, that was not her thing. And I said, maybe you want to reassess, reevaluate the goal. Maybe we need to take that off the list and make the focus something else. So whatever she's complaining about, whatever her main grievance or concern is, why don't you make that the focus of your attention and excel in that area? And then once that is done, then you can transition back over to the things that you want. And so oftentimes the things that we want to do towards our spouse is self-serving. It benefits us. It may not benefit them. So you may be stuck because there's a level of unawareness of what it takes for your wife to feel like she's being loved and her needs are being met, and you're doing all that it takes to restore the trust.
I got to get in on this. Listen, we have to stop self-assessing our situations. We self-assess the situation and say, I think this is what ought to happen. I think this is what she needs. This is what he needs. We should stop doing that. So oftentimes we hear a little squeaking in the car and we take it to the mechanic and we say, oh, I think it's this, until he actually puts it up, looks underneath, and find out it's not that, it's something totally different. Meaning that your wife, you are presenting something to her that you think she wants, that you think is going to make her happy, when in all actuality, what she really needs, you haven't asked her. And so that's when we have these conversations. They don't have to be hard conversations. They have to be intentional conversations, because you want to meet your spouse where they are. It doesn't serve either of you to just do what you think they want to do. You bring her roses, but she likes carnations. Like what? Like why? Like, get her what she wants. Get her what she needs. And when we get to that space, now we are making progress. Now we don't feel stuck, because now we're doing what needs to be done for our spouse.
Absolutely. And Stacy, I appreciate your question. I saw you ask it 3 different ways. What if your partner refuses to not put in the work with the betrayal? He cheated with a woman who I had problems with back in the 90s. He knows the whole story. I'm crushed, and I thought we could move on. Yeah, I understand this. Unfortunately, I think that former betrayed or former unfaithful partners oftentimes underestimate underestimate what's required for change, right? So they think, oh, I just made a decision. I'm not going to do it anymore. I don't need help. You're the one who's hurt. You need help. But the reality is, even though his actions hurt you, caused pain and brokenness within you, there was hurt, pain, and brokenness within him that caused him to do it in the first place. And it's important for us to have the right perspective, an inside look at our heart, because the heart deceives. Oftentimes we think we figured it out. Listen, I read a book, I heard a sermon, I read a tweet or a quote, I'm good now. But no, there's some internal work that needs to be done. And so, yes, you have your healing process, he has his healing process, and then you have your mutual healing process. So the question is, what if your partner refuses? Well, one thing that I always say, everybody is motivated by something. And it's important to find the source of his motivation because, listen, even I, early in my marriage, was kicking and screaming when it came to the idea of going to counseling and getting help. But then I found my motivation. And if you watched our show long enough, you would know that we say men and women are motivated by different things. And oftentimes for men, they're motivated by the fear of loss. I've heard many men say, I just never thought she would leave. I never thought that we would be in this place. And it wasn't until they felt like they were going to lose it all were they willing to do everything to keep it. And hopefully it doesn't have to get to that place. But that is one expression or one example of a man's motivation. So you have to find what his motivation is and lean into that because his absolute emphatic no can turn into an absolute yes.
Yes, the bottom line is it doesn't matter until it really matters. We don't care until it cares about until we feel that we should be caring about it. And so oftentimes, men, women, we don't want to do what we have to do. We don't want to make the necessary adjustments. We don't want to change for the idea of being afraid to do better, being afraid that if it doesn't work, being afraid of making change. And we have to be willing to just step out. We have to get comfortable being uncomfortable to do the right thing if we know we've been doing the wrong thing for such a long period of time.
Listen, guys, you've been watching the Couples Academy show. We appreciate you. We've got to go because we got to prepare for this last chance weekend. So thank you for tuning in. We'll hope you have a great weekend. And I know we're going to have some powerful testimonials for you come Monday. But until then, love your life, love your spouse, love your family. See you on Monday. Take care.